Hi guys. When I was maybe about 4 years old, I got the first pool advice I ever got in my life. And that pool advice was from my mom. And she said, stay away from that pool table or your dad will beat your ass. Well, this was different times and all that. We had this thing called discipline back then. And my dad wasn't like that at all. He didn't care what I did on the pool table as long as I washed my hands first. Little boys, a lot of people might not know this. Well, little kids, but especially little boys, have special pores, glands in the ends of their fingers that emit a sticky substance, and it gets all over everything. And my dad didn't want that on his pool tube, understandably. Second piece of pool advice I ever heard was probably a little bit more relevant, and it's what I'm going to talk about in this video. And I'm pretty sure it was Alan Hopkins on Wide World of Sports. Most of my viewers are old enough to remember Wide World of Sports and television. I think it was Alan. He always had a fairly famously short bridge compared to a lot of the players. And I seem to remember him saying once that for a softer shot, shorter distance where you don't have to do a whole lot, use a shorter bridge. And for a longer shot, or one where you really have to put a stroke on it, use a longer bridge. Something very close to that, except Allen would have made the shot. I think it was Allen Hopkins. And I want to talk about bridge. So many, so many of the players back then had a shorter bridge than a lot of the players do now. I'm talking about in general. I'm not talking about that variable length bridge that, again, I think was Allen Hopkins talking about. They had a shorter bridge. It seemed like once the Filipino invasion started, that's when bridges started getting longer, and Americans started picking up that habit as well. And it would end up with a 15-inch bridge on a shot. Well, because in the Philippines they're playing on AstroTurf or whatever they're playing on, you had to have a bridge that long to get any kind of movement out of anything. And you want to stay consistent. I think you want to stay consistent if you can with your bridge length. And get to a case where you especially want to stay consistent. And that's if you're somebody like me that uses backhand English. This is not a backhand English video, but it's definitely relevant to bridge length because that's where the pivot is happening, is on the bridge. If the bridge is up here, that's where the pivot is happening. If the bridge is back here, that's where it's happening. And for you, you're counting on that pivot to help you get your side spin and compensate for squirt. It definitely matters where this is. If you're consistent, then that's great. I don't think you have to be 6.5 inches or 10.5 or whatever you have to be. I do think it's important to stay consistent. Absolutely, especially if we're using backhand English. If we're using, I guess, maybe a more conventional way to put side spin on, which is just adjusting and compensating when you get up here, then it really doesn't matter. You get on the shot line, you get on the shot line. It really doesn't matter. But if you're using any type of backhand English and you're getting down straight and then pivoting, this is different than this would be. So yeah, so very important, and it's important to stay consistent. Now my bridge length does change because I change styles a lot. For the most part, I'm about right here, which is about 10.5 inches. But that's not because that's the magic number for pool or whatever. That's the point where I said, okay, that's long enough where I can get enough speed on a shot, but short enough where I can usually still hit the cue ball where I want to hit it. And because I do use backhand English, I'm still compensating for squirt in a somewhat consistent manner. I'm talking about speed a little bit. If you have a short bridge, and I'm just going to exaggerate, 4-inch bridge, 4-inch bridge. I get on the shot line and I have a 4-inch bridge. And sure, I can hit this cue ball exactly where I want, but I cannot generate that much speed. The 4-inch bridge limits me to a 4-inch shot, 4 inches of acceleration going through here. It limits me to that one. So I'm kind of limited. If I want to shoot this super hard with a little 4-inch bridge, I really have to use what I call my twitch muscles, which I don't believe are as accurate, at least not for me. And it's bad. You want to be accurate when you play pool. At least I think so. I think so. If I want to have the same shot. And now all of a sudden I'm Rafael Martinez. And I'm going to be back here. This is my bridge. And I'm going to use the whole thing. I can really accelerate all the way through, keep it, smooth acceleration all the way through, not have to engage those twitch muscles or anything. And I think that helps. I don't like having to twitch, have to use those muscles. Just because if you have a longer bridge does not mean that you're limited to a hard and fast stroke. It doesn't even mean you're limited to a long stroke. I could have a longer bridge. That's probably about 15 inches. I could have a longer bridge and only come back a little bit on some shots. On some shots, only come back a little bit. I don't have to hit it that hard. Only come back a little bit. Shoot the shot. If I want to shoot the same shot, but harder, you're going to use the same length bridge. But now I'm just going to use more of it so I can accelerate better. Shot. There are an awful lot of really good players that I'm aware of that they stay consistent in their bridge length, but the amount that they draw back varies depending on the shot. I like that approach. I definitely like having a consistent bridge length because, again, I use the backhand English. I think it's very important. So if you have a longer bridge, you can still shoot a softer shot. But if you have a really short bridge, it's tougher to shoot a hard shot. You have to accelerate much more quickly, much more of a jerking motion. And some people can be very good at this. You can actually move the cue ball around probably a lot better than you think you can. If you're used to being Rafael Martinez and this is what you're used to, you can probably move the cue ball around pretty well with a little 6-inch bridge. But if you still have to make the ball. Remember I talked about consistency in the pivot point? If you're using backhand English, I didn't demonstrate on purpose what happens if you change your pivot point, but I just demonstrated accidentally because my pivot point was not where it used to be. I missed the shot. It's perfectly fine. I don't mind missing on the internet. It's awesome. That time I didn't do any backhand English. I just did center ball. I brought the ball back just fine. I didn't have to really stroke it and get a 2-foot running start at the cue ball or anything. I really feel like the biggest thing is just be consistent, especially if you're using any type of backhand English. Even if you're using accidental backhand English, a lot of people are doing that. They don't even realize it. But they'll shoot a shot and they'll think, I'm not using any backhand English. I'm a normal person. I'm shooting this like a normal person. But if they put left on the shot, then they follow through. Now they're off to the left of the shot. They put a little bit of that backhand English on it, whether they wanted to or not. Like everything else on my channel, my opinion. But that doesn't mean I'm wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm right either. But the other thing about bridge length is most of us have, well, I would say all of us have a wingspan. most of us have a pool wingspan that we're used to, that we're comfortable with. And if I have one, mine changes a lot. So I'm really bad at examples on stuff like this. But if I have one, and say this feels perfectly fine. Say this feels perfectly fine. So what I've got is 10-inch bridge and a grip in the middle of the ramp. If, for whatever reason, I'm going to move this up, and then now I'm going to have a 6-inch bridge, and I try to grip in the same place back here, it's not going to feel right anymore. I'm going to have to move my right hand up as well to keep this distance the same. So if the bridge is up here, the grip is up here. If the bridge is back here, the grip is back here. Keeping that distance the same, that pool wingspan the same. I think that's pretty important as well. And you just watch, but watch the good players. And whether they're doing it on purpose or whether they're just doing it because they've been doing it for a million years, most of the top players are going to have a consistent pool wingspan, whether they're contorted or not. It absolutely makes a difference. If you're all stretched out and you can barely even hit the ball, so now all of a sudden you've got a bridge like this, then you're going to grip further in the back of the cue. But if you've got some kind of a little nippy shot and you don't want to foul it, you maybe grip way up here. Keeping this distance consistent. Why, if you watch people, if you ask a top player, he may not know. He may say, well, that sounds stupid. Who told you that? Some idiot on YouTube? But if you just watch them, a lot of them are doing that. A lot of them have a consistent wingspan for shooting pool. And that wingspan, in part, depends on where's the bridge. Where are you bridging? Kind of cool stuff. I think it's kind of cool anyway. We had a really hard time shooting in that pocket tonight. Did you notice that? There's a light right there that's not really shining in my face. One of the studio lights, because I'm like a professional YouTube guy or whatever. I'm not, but I'm going to use that as an excuse sometimes. Just cut it in. All you have to do is just cut the stupid ball in. I'm going to quit this video right now and watch some TV. I'm watching, well, it's gone to screensaver now. Nick Varner is talking a little bit about Buddy Hall, who we recently lost. And I'm watching that and enjoying it. So, thanks, guys.